Viewers' discretion advised. Some subjects that we are about to discuss are sensitive and might appear controversial. However, they are our true feelings and opinions. If you find yourself being easily offended or sensitive, tune out now. And let's be clear, this isn't for gossiping or anything like that. This podcast is for us to maturely discuss topics that interest us. Now, let's start a conversation. I am Steven. Okay?
I'm Layla.
And I'm Kim.
And I'm Soleil.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Cynthia.
I'm Melanie.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Mr. Lou.
All right. So, what was the first topic that we discussed
I
or
think
wanted
we're-
to talk about again?
Layla wanted to start.
So we're gonna talk about censorship. When we began this podcast, we got set out a bunch of rules as to what we can and cannot address, and I think that was perfect to tie on our first topic of being censorship, of what in society is acceptable to say, and we just avoid. We just don't even talk about it.
So who wants to start us off? Give us a topic.
I think for censorship, we can start off, like, if we're, like, tying it to school, we can start off talking about books that we're not allowed to read. I know a lot of, like, for some reason they didn't want us to read To Kill a Mockingbird anymore.
Why? Classic.
Yeah, because I think it was because, like, it discussed rape. They didn't want us to talk about rape anymore.
Or The Color Purple too.
Yeah, they think it's too harsh of a topic, but I'm saying these things happen to students all over the place. I think it's important for us to talk about things like that.
Yeah.
And
I'm able to talk in a little bit. There was a book we know of. It's called 1984, where the main protagonist, or like the person we follow as the main character, does think about rape. So what's so bad about that? Like, we already know what's happening, but if a book actually directly covers it, how come we're not supposed to read it? Like, it happens. We can't avoid that.
To be fair, I think that they're only doing that sort of censorship to preserve our innocence and to keep us, kind of blind to that stuff. But I think it's doing more harm than good.
But at this age, I feel like we've experienced so many things from outside that censoring, like, books at this point only does us harm.
Yeah.
Because we know about so much right now. I feel like it just makes us feel like, why aren't we allowed to talk about it? I feel like it brings up shame more than it does.
It makes things taboo.
Yeah, it brings up shame more than
willingness
protecting
to
our
talk about
innocence.
it.
Yeah, it does more.
I mean, you guys will remember Foundations when we were given the floor to talk about anything we liked. A lot of kids actually took the time to mention their rape stories or family dying stories, and I feel like that helped us come together more as a freshman class.
And I feel like we remember things like that way more than we remember, like, material that is censored and fed to us. Then, like, when we remember more things, we're like, hey, you can talk about anything you want, or you're free to talk about experiences that have happened to you, and I'm not going to censor you at all. I feel like we learn from those lessons more than we do just things that are, like, fed to us, like vocabulary and stuff like that.
Okay, but let me bring up the devil's advocate, from the school standpoint, from the county standpoint, what is the line then? What should be censored, right? Because you guys, like, essentially are still 17.
Yeah.
Some of you guys, most of you guys aren't 18 yet, right? So where do we draw the line? Like, when it comes to college, then yeah, everything's on limits, right? But in high school, essentially, you guys are still children. So where does the county draw the line?
The acts that I have done are not childlike, man.
But I'd like to also mention we are at Veterans Tribute. We are training to be part of, like,
Law
first
enforcement.
responders. So we're going to be there for a lot of, like, the heinous crimes that are happening on in this
Not
world.
to mention, in our current society, we have already everything access to us. It's not like before where you had to go and find an encyclopedia to learn about different things. You have access in your pocket to unlimited resources. And the fact that we are censored as 17-year-olds, that we are all, at the same time we're being censored and told we can't read this certain book, we're also being told you need to prepare to be an adult, you need to prepare to go to college, you need to prepare to pay your bills.
And it's
interesting that we are censored in that. And it reminds me of when the Holocaust was going on and book burnings were happening to replace history and to cover that up. That's the same as what's happening now. We're just trying to cover up what happened and cover up what was okay at the time. We should embrace that and learn about it so that it doesn't happen again.
And I think when we don't talk about it in schools, it provides a space for people to get information wrongly, like getting wrong information or getting information from the wrong places. And like say if I was curious about, since we were talking about rape earlier, or like what consent means and stuff like that. If I was going on the internet, there's so much stuff on the internet where it's describing it so wrong, where it's like I don't want to like say like all people say this or all people say that, but there's wrong information out there, especially on like they'll get it on social media outlets mainly, and it's like just people's opinions that they're spouting. It's like not facts. And I feel like if we talk about in school, if we talked about consent and we talked about rape and it wasn't so censored and so taboo, that people would actually know what it is and how to define it and when to spot it.
Like a baseline
Like the red
knowledge.
flags.
Like we all know the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we're all starting out at the same level.
All were taught the same thing.
And there needs to be a start of that conversation, because right now everybody's at a different pace of what they do and what they don't know. And so, but there needs to be just that conversation, that start, where everybody starting in one grade level knows the same thing. That way we can all move up from that and we can all know the same material. There shouldn't have to be a different kind of knowledge per grade level.
And it just helps with progress. I mean, that'll just allow us to start talking about more. That way everybody has that unified knowledge. Like when everybody has that unified knowledge, it allows us to access more topics, because, you know, we won't be sitting there like, well, I thought it was this, or no, I thought it was this.
All right, sorry to be old man Lou, but to play devil's advocate.
Right,
but
He's
listen,
like, I'm devil's advocate this episode.
I gotta be, because, you know, I'm the teacher here, right? But,
Yeah.
like, what if you're a parent who is very strict religiously, and you don't want your child to be partaking in this conversation in class, right? So, you know, as a district, you know, as a higher ups, you know, like as the policymakers, where do they draw the line? Where should we draw the line, right? Because I understand what you guys are trying to say. Like, dialogue is good, dialogue is important, but there has to be a line drawn somewhere for minors. You guys are minors, right? So keep that in mind. Like, where's that line, right?
Yeah, but my question is, are these parents that are having problems with this, are they going to teach them what it is?
Right. Where are they going to learn
when
this?
are they? When and where are they going to learn this? You're saying that I'm not an adult now, but when I'm adult, I need to know this before I'm an adult.
Right.
There's things that you need to know now, and I feel like putting a hold on these things is just creating room for like trouble when you are older, when you do have more freedom, when no one can tell you that you can't do something, like you can't go out this, like then, and where you can and can't go. And if you go out like not knowing, so I saw this thing on social media like a couple months ago where it was like these guys discussing consent in the comment section on a tweet, and so many guys, grown men, didn't know what, like, when they had violated someone's consent. And like there was this guy talking about it and admitting that, like, he was like, before when I was like 19 years old, I didn't know about these things. He was like, I didn't know that if I asked a girl over and like again and again, and then she finally said yes, that still wasn't consent, even though at the end she said yes. And I'm like, that's crazy that someone didn't know that. Like, you went your whole life thinking that what you did to that person was okay. And like, he genuinely was like, I feel sorry for that. But like, I feel like if he was educated on it in school, then it could have stopped.
They're enabling ignorance.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it's like, that's the whole sex ed conversation. Like, they give out waivers to the students whose parents are like, no, I don't want my kid learning about that. If that's the case, if there are subjects that you don't want your child learning, then put out waivers for it. But other than that, it should be like something that every student and every person should learn going throughout school, because, you know, if we aren't educated at that point, we're all just, what are we doing with our lives?
We're just homeschooling.
Yeah, you can't be stunting some students' growth or like
just based off
ability
a couple
to learn
of
about
students.
the world just because a couple students aren't allowed to be learning about like
And
sex
when we
ed
send
or the
out
climate.
those waivers, there's barely any parents who are like, I don't want my child to learn about this. Like, there's majority of parents do sign those waivers and do check the yes box. I do want my child to hear about
be
this.
There's
educated.
always
Just
that
like-
one though.
Yeah, there's always that one,
Parents
but
don't know.
imagine 90% of these kids getting the education, like just like 10% not. I would rather that odd than just no one getting that education.
And it's funny, but like half the time, the parents that sign the waivers, it's like, I'm pretty sure those students already know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're not going to learn in class, you're eventually just going to learn
Someone's going
out in
to
the world.
teach you.
You
Even
are
whether
going
it's
to
the right
learn
way
out
or
in
the
the
wrong
world,
way,
yeah.
someone's going to teach you.
Even though we're minors, I think adults think it's really easy for us just to have a minor state of mind. Like, just because I'm a minor doesn't mean that I don't be doing the same stuff you guys are doing, or that I don't have the same kind of mindsets. And
Not only that, but it's like,
No, we get you.
think about it. it's so easy to access information nowadays. I mean, the internet is so vast and ever expanding that if I wanted to look up a subject about hummingbirds in like a different country, I could just do that. Even though back in the day, the internet wasn't exactly that strong or that easy, and not all the information was out there. So like, really, what stops a student from learning about what they want to learn about?
Yeah, even if we don't learn it here, a lot of us can drive. A lot of us are able to work, and working with older people and meeting new customers, a lot of times they're under the influence or they're very inappropriate, and they say things and they talk about things that you've never heard about,
And
maybe your parent never wanted you to learn about.
And you learn the way they view it. You're not learning from like a CCSD standpoint or like a school district standpoint or like the right way, an educated professional. Like you're not learning from that. You're learning from some random person that came in and gave you that experience. And it's like if you were to learn it from a professional, you'd have the right information.
Especially like I can agree with the whole statement about like you learn it from other people too. I worked at In-N-Out over the summers for like the past 2 years. I worked at the location on the Strip. I would have people under the influence coming in all the time, and being like that, you really don't know what's exactly right from wrong necessarily.
You gotta know.
Of course, you're gonna learn some way or another, whether your parents agree or not.
Yeah.
And that has to do with like personal censorship, and like we've been talking about like censorship in schooling, but like even our family and the people we surround ourselves with, are these people censoring us? So like the 10% of students who don't have whose parents wouldn't sign the waiver for them to learn like about sex ed, they are being censored by the people in their own home. But is that considered censored to them? Because it might not be. It might be their version of their own comfortable bubble. For us, for the people who've spoken, that's our version of being comfortable and being informed, but that's not for everybody. So that's hard to decide a line of censorship because everybody's is different.
Exactly, and that's why I think it's wrong for CCSD to choose the line, to make their own line.
Agreed.
And I have a question because in our program classes we do talk about like really rough stuff and like rape and cases like that. Like in my friend's class today, we were in an article about like a sexual sadist and the stuff he did. And in law enforcement, we like saw a lady who cut off her arm. Like, why is it that some parents are okay with us seeing like that gory stuff, but when it's like, as Leila said, like taboo subjects, like why, like, oh no, like we can't do that. But the gory stuff is, to me, seems like just as bad. It's a little less bad, I guess, but it just seems it's really gory.
It's interesting that like we talk about that line, and like another thing that I found kind of interesting is we all have Chromebooks, and that we can access articles online from the New York Times, Fox News, that are about women overdosing. The recent murders of women in Las Vegas. Yeah. We can access those articles online, but you know what's interesting that we can't access is the Bible.
Yeah,
so it's odd. Yeah. It's odd that our censorship, even what we are forced to look at, which is our Chromebooks, our censorship is out of our control. That we can look at a murder scene and investigate that, but don't talk about somebody's
religious
views.
Right.
Interesting how that plays a part in our censorship.
And you know what's really funny? Pretty much I'm going to go to the extent of saying probably 99% of us have a smartphone that can access the internet. Mm-hmm. So though we can't access it on our Chromebooks, I feel like administration or whoever like has the point of view where it's like, oh, well, as long as they don't do it on our devices, they can do it. It's like, it doesn't matter as long as it's not on our time.
They're so worried about keeping their hands
reputation.
Clean
their reputation.
I feel like
they're looking for a scapegoat.
Yeah, I feel like reputation sometimes they take that into account more than educating or wanting to educate.
Or the responsibility of educating.
They have the responsibility to educate. Each school district, every school district has a responsibility to educate, and I feel like they value their public, what is it called? Reputation, image, yes, perception. They value that more than they do about actually teaching us what we're gonna actually need
and see in the world. Like we're gonna get there eventually.
Just today, we just had an announcement at the end of school that talked about now we are surpassing. We are number one in all of Nevada. Now that's important. That's our reputation. Interesting that that's something that we prize. And like, what does that mean? Like, does that encompass our test scores? Does that encompass our minority rates? Yeah. What does that encompass? What does it mean to be a number one high school in Nevada? And obviously we're proud of it, but what does it really mean? What's that reputation?
We proud of it?
Yeah.
They tell us,
And if I might chime in, actually Nevada is in the 49th place in like all the states.
Right,
Basically at the
right.
bottom.
So what does that
we need
mean?
to
I mean, hey,
rethink
that's
everything,
that's
if you
2
want
up
to.
from where we
proud
were.
of that.
We were the lowest at one point. Now it's up, so I
Improvement
can't
is
complain.
improvement.
49.
Julie, what were you
Let's go.
saying?
Oh, I was gonna say back to what Rachel was saying about how we're number one. It's like they just tell us that, but like how you're saying,
we really?
why? Like how did we achieve this goal to be number one in the school district or in Nevada?
Oh,
basically?
there's numbers that back up why.
And
Yeah,
they-
there are statistics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my.
They
Like it's
sponsor-
not some random like you get a prize. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also back to the whole censorship thing that we learned in our classrooms. What's it called? In law enforcement, we learn how to interview someone by their body language, and they are in the interviews. They're over here saying foul language, saying what they did to the person, and like in some crime scenes for forensics, they have to go over on like how this person died. They have to see the murdered person there, and it's just like why isn't there waivers for the school?
I mean, in technicality, when we came here as freshmen, we knew what the school was doing. So technically, in coming here, we did sign the waiver because we look at all the fields like forensics, law enforcement, EMT, and dispatch, and criminal justice. We look at all these things, and like that's part of the reason probably why we all came here. So in coming here and staying here, that was us signing the waiver. We knew what we signed up for and joining the program. So I'm sure that's the ideology behind not having waivers for those specific.
All right, so we just got censored, and we're gonna jump back into the conversation.
We got canceled, I guess.
Time, right?
We should be proud about that. That's like our first moment getting censored. That's
It's also the first one.
As we were
point.
talking about censorship.
I know, very on brand of us. All right.
So something Julie mentioned on the break was about censorship in our clothing, and something that we deal with at our school is being in uniforms. Even like in the law enforcement program, down to our socks and even our undershirts, the shirt that is underneath our uniform. We have to have a certain color, a certain length of sock, crazy things that just it's very censorship. And even our hair, girls have to have their hair in buns above the collar. So it really does come down to censorship in our school districts to personal censorship. So
But is the hair bun thing only for when you're in the program class, or is it for
No, it's
every?
all day.
all day, when you have that class, you have to wear your hair in a bun as soon as you step on campus to the moment you leave campus.
Okay, so let me flip it really quick. I agree with when people express like anger towards wearing uniform. Not anger, but just like, hey, I want to wear what I want to wear.
Mm-hmm.
But I also get why they put the uniform, like why they make us wear uniforms. Because I know they want us to like promote professionalism and
Which it does.
yeah, it really does give us an image that we're professional, and I think I going to the school, I'm not gonna lie, it has helped me in more ways than I would like to admit and expected. Yeah, because like I can say that I'm a lot more comfortable with talking in front of people now,
Definitely.
with discussing topics like this. Like I would have never done anything like this before I came to the school. So I would like to credit them on that. But I'm saying, but as it does go along with professionalism, it also goes along with what we were talking about earlier about how they care about our image, how we look. And so I feel like you can flip it either way.
I would agree with that.
All right.
But also, that goes a lot with like our school pride. I feel like the uniform really represents us, and like speaking from like a Key Club point of view, I know like we are a lot about pride and like standing up for our school and our club, and so like that uniform, that T-shirt, like that is like what makes you stand together and actually be like, yeah, I go to this school, and yeah, I'm in this program, and like when we're happy about like what we're wearing, I feel like we're actually more happy about like the school we're going to.
And coming here every
This-
day.
yeah.
Spending so much time here.
Especially when somebody comes up to you and be like, you go to that school? I can't wait to have you to be part of it.
Yeah,
People shake my hand at
I
the
go
grocery
to
store.
Walmart.
And they'll be like, they'll ask me
Ma'am,
where I
do you
work
work
sometimes.
here? Yeah.
Like, who do you work for? And I'll be like, oh, I go to
AMR.
school.
I mean,
I'll be like, I go to school at Veterans Tribute. And
Yeah.
they're like, tell me about it. Like, they want to hear about it and they're
And
interested
then,
in it.
especially if they have kids, they're like, do you guys have open house, or do you guys have
Yeah.
something? I'm like,
Yeah.
here's our information.
Same.
And it's like, it makes you feel good, like, oh, dang,
I'm hot. Bro, I was just about to say, bro, I get so many compliments in the uniform.
mean-
Somebody called my butt cute once. It was great.
No.
On a better note, I get
On a better note, ouch.
to not talk about butts, but like every single day I take a Lyft to school, and my Lyft driver, whenever he drops me off, he's like, "Ooh, I want my daughter to go to this school." Or another one's like, "Oh, you go to this school? I'm so proud. My daughter graduated from here." That's what my Lyft driver told
And
me
then
today.
many people from my dad's work and like from people from where I come from, like the area that I live in, they're like, "Oh, you go there? Wow, you actually seem like you're gonna make it in life." Or for my dad's coworkers, they'd be like, "I want my kid to go there because look how yours is turning out."
Also, I feel like with uniforms, that helps our school avoid bullying more because everybody's like on the same base. We're all wearing the same thing. You can't look at someone and be like, "Oh, what they're wearing is ugly." You get me?
True.
So it's like, from there, bullying would be like a whole other thing. But like, you don't have clothing and you don't have like people's like, personality showing what they're wearing.
Yes, I agree. Like
Yeah.
when I was in middle school, there was a kid that wore the same clothes every day because he was poor, but he got made fun of, But if they had a uniform, that would not
They
be an
wouldn't
issue.
even notice.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we have to
Yeah.
wear the same thing
Yeah.
every day.
Exactly, which is a good thing. I mean, like when I was younger, that was a whole issue. Like, should students be dressed in uniform? And like as a kid, I was like, no, of course not. But as an adult, I see the benefits of it.
Speaking of bullying, I can't recall any time that I've been here that I was like ever actually bullied. Like
Same.
Yeah.
in middle school, it was pretty bad because like it's middle school, kids suck actually. But going here, I noticed that bullying just kind of vanished out. It wasn't even a concept at that point. It could be because during the orientations and everything, like it was stressed at the fact like we don't tolerate it. That helped, but overall, it's just everybody seems to have like a better.
I think there's the
standpoint.
environment here.
Yeah, it's just the
like,
climate.
Yeah.
It's just the
It's-
climate. We
it
all
does-
came here for the same
Like
thing.
obviously there's got people do clash, but I feel like overall that like we're pretty respectful towards each other.
We can settle our
Yeah.
agreements like adults.
Yeah, because why are you gonna be coming to the school, to go helping people out in like the real world,
In
and
public
then
And then you just
Yeah.
trap
be attacking
somebody.
kids like
Yeah.
online or something like that? That's
Yeah,
never gonna
I've
happen.
never seen that here.
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty good with being respectful towards each other.
Yeah.
It also does help like wearing the same uniform because you do feel like you're a part of something.
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah.
accomplishments have got you this far that you're in law enforcement advanced studies or you're in 911 dispatch. Like that's an important thing. If you're in certain programs, you could like 911, you can graduate with a degree, like with a certification. Like that's important to have. That's important, and I think that camaraderie really does help.
No, I agree with what you said, Rachel, and that also brings us to the point like when other students see each other wearing the same uniform, it also like brings in a conversation, allows other classes to kind of connect with each other. Like as a senior, I'm wearing the senior forensics uniform, and if I see somebody in forensics 2 or forensics 3 wearing their uniform, I'll be like, oh hey, you're in this class, you're doing this year, and da 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 da, and it allows me to kind of connect with the classes lower than us because what's especially cool about this year to me, I feel like there isn't that superiority complex that seniors usually get. I feel like there's actually more connection between the classes.
Yeah.
True.
Like I feel like I can still have a conversation with a junior or a sophomore or heck, even if a freshman were to come up to me, I would still be cool to be able to tell them like, hey, you're gonna have the decision day where you get to pick what major you want to be in. I'm in this major. I can tell you that this is what's going on.
Right.
Look forward to doing all this stuff with forensics or doing all this stuff with law enforcement.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Breakfast.
Hey, Mr. How long is it already?
28 minutes.
Oh. Does
Should
it
I
have to be
stop
like
here?
an hour?
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, we're trying to do an hour? Can we do like a 30-minute? All right, we had to say bye to Steven, but we're back and we're going to kind of switch gears and talk about advice. And also, like talking about advice, we're going to have a box outside Mr. Lou's room where you guys can drop things like where you guys have questions or anything you guys want us to talk about. You can drop it in the box outside Mr. Lou's classroom and we'll talk about it on here, it being appropriate. Now I'm going to switch it off to Cynthia and she's going to talk about someone who asked her for advice.
All right. So someone actually brought this in. They said, what would you do if your friend tells you they like a person you're already talking to? So they kind of explained the situation, saying like they were already starting to talk to a person, but then one of their really good friends said that they really liked him and like they wanted to get at them.
Okay, so you're saying if like Sally liked Joe, but then Sally's friend Betty also likes Joe.
Yeah, like Sally
What
and Joe were already texting or talking, and then
Betty came in and was like, I like Joe.
But does
yeah,
Sally?
and Sally's like a really nice person, so she's like,
And Sally's friends with Betty.
But doesn't Betty know that Sally likes Joe?
No, Betty doesn't know.
no, because
Then why
I'm
does Sally
guessing it's
let
like
her?
a new thing for them.
Who does Joe like?
Yeah.
Joe likes
No.
That's the thing though, like nobody knows who Joe likes.
But
Joe's
Sally
lame.
knows that she was talking it.
Manipulate.
Right?
I mean,
No, I feel like Joe's just in the middle of it, just liking the
just chilling.
attention.
Yeah.
Joe's in a win-win situation.
Well, my opinion is that like Sally should have let Betty know, like, hey, I got dibs. Like,
I got
Right, who liked it
Claim.
first?
Also,
Yeah.
I've been here first.
I know me being me, I'm very non-confrontational, like
Yeah.
usually. I like share my opinions, like people know how I feel, like
Yes.
based off You're like, yes, I know how you
Yes,
feel.
we know.
I'm like, I will tell people how I feel, especially for things like I'm passionate about, like, but when it comes to my feelings, I put other people's feelings before mine. I know I'm that
Yes.
type of person. Like, so if one of my friends were to come up to me and be like, hey, I like this person, and I just started talking to that person that they like, I would be like, I know, I would like to say that I'd be like, I was talking to them first, but I know I'd be like, you know what, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
I'd
know
encourage
that I
them.
would,
I'd be like,
yeah.
Go for it.
But-
Not
but-
even encourage
'cause
Joe.
I
to be
just
like,
want them
hey,
to be
she's
happy.
cute. Go talk to
But
her.
why encourage it if you
If
like
it's
that
gonna
person?
hurt you,
Yeah.
like if it's
Yeah,
gonna
I
bring
kn-
you pain to watch
then they'll
that
be happy.
transpire,
What
why
if
would you do
that?
that to
What if
yourself?
Joe likes you and doesn't want to go with her? You're,
Then that's a different situation.
Yeah.
But
But like I don't know that yet, so like I would totally tell
Oh, is this
them.
about you or is this about a friend?
No, it's just saying
Right?
what would you do.
Oh,
So I
okay.
put myself in that
No.
situation.
I don't know if I would ever be in that situation because I feel like if I like someone and I'm starting talking to someone, I feel like I would
tell my friends, yeah,
like,
that's
guys, like this is
Yeah.
going on.
I
Like,
know.
yeah.
I feel like as soon as something happens
Yeah,
with me and someone else, I instantly
in my
like
direction.
Rachel will hear about everything that like if something happens between me and someone else, I'll instantly text Rachel and be like, look at this. Like,
Open
Analyze very
yeah,
much
like
about
even
open
Layla,
book.
I'll
Letting
like
them know later.
I'll text Layla and be like, help me.
Analyze these screenshots.
because
Wait, but then again, like, how close are Sally and Betty? Are they close friends or are they just acquaintances? You know?
Oh, I'd have to ask
You
about
have to
that
ask
one,
them. Oh,
but
okay.
I think they're just like acquaintances.
Yeah, I just don't see why you would, or Sally would want to, like, pawn Betty up to Joe, you know, if she likes him, right?
I feel like at that point you're just I don't know sabotaging yourself.
If
and
you
not
like
letting
someone,
yourself find love
go for
anymore.
it. Just go for it.
But I don't know. Personally, I would not do that.
Julie, do you have thoughts on that?
no, I was just gonna ask, what's another way that you can self-sabotage yourself other than just
Procrastinating.
Okay, let's go down the
Yes,
list.
yes.
Oh, there's so many
Maybe,
ways.
imposter syndrome. So like, say you're good at something, but then you constantly doubt yourself. You'll kind of
That's true.
rush
yeah.
yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
You can't
Like, I
back
mean,
out.
I'm very scared of like failure and rejection, so I'm like, I don't even want to try this because like, what if it goes bad? So like, I feel like I'm sabotaging myself from trying things because I'm scared of a bad consequence or an outcome.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's typically like everybody like the term you're your biggest critic is like you're always going to be the one that's doubting yourself even when you think it's the right idea. The little voice in the back of your mind's like, well, what if this? Well, what if you do this wrong? You're always going to be your biggest critic. That's something that I think you just have to learn over time is to like trust your first gut or just go for it and see what happens.
And not just your biggest critic, but your biggest enemy. I feel like
Right.
people's
Yeah.
ego is their biggest enemy
Right.
sometimes. you know?
Usually,
Yeah.
you even told us like, you even told me last year like you're too hard on yourself, and then like that's everyone.
That's everyone, yeah. So like that's something that I started to be more conscious of in my 30s. And once I started to read about self-sabotage, I saw it in myself, saw it in all my loved ones, like my family, friends, students, everyone, literally everyone. They do it in one form or another, and it's sad because like when you try to really look at the root of why people do that, I feel like at the end of the day, it's a lack of self-love.
Yeah.
It's like we're not taught how to love ourselves.
It's like you
Ouch.
believe, yeah. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's like you believe you
self-validation,
don't deserve that.
Exactly.
Or, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Sometimes
really
I feel like that in certain situations, like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like competition or something. Well, I feel like if it's me and my best friend, I'm like, well, I think she deserves it more than I do because I just love her so much and I want her to like get all the best things in life, and I want her
That
to
goes back
thrive.
to what Cynthia was saying, like
Yeah.
how she was like, I would put my
Yeah.
friend's happiness over mine.
Yeah.
But
Because-
would they do that for you?
Yeah.
I mean, I
That's-
hope they would.
I would hope.
Yeah.
That's
would
the
hope
thing
so.
that keeps me from doing that is I always step back, and maybe people think I'm heartless for it, but I step back and I think they would never do that for me. They would never sacrifice their happiness or a possible really great relationship for me. So why would I do that for them? You know, I
But,
always
like-
look back and think about it both ways.
I'm not looking for that. I don't know. Like, I know everybody finds, like, they look for different things in life, but, like, personally, like, as long as I've helped out my friends as much as possible, like, I don't care if they help me
Yeah.
out.
I never think
as long
about.
as they don't step on me
Yeah.
so much.
I never think about, hey, are they gonna do that same thing for me? It kind of just comes like naturally for me to like put my friends before myself in situations like that, especially the people that I'm really close to. And I think that's maybe sometimes that's viewed as like a bad habit that I have, where I'm like, because I could be like so upset, but if one of my, like, I know if one of my friends called me, I would still like put my feelings aside to be there for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes it's like I don't know what to call it. It's just like a bad habit that I have.
Unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's low-key
It's like
unhealthy.
a bad like I'll put my feelings to the side to help other friends.
And that's
And-
scary because like that's a form of self-sabotage. Like
Yeah.
you feeling like you're doing the best thing for someone that's so important to you, but you're putting like yourself in the back and like in
Yeah.
the back seat and being like, I'm fine. I can deal with this
Yeah.
later. Like I'll just deal with my friend's happiness. Like
Yeah,
that's
but
a
then,
scary thing.
Yeah, but where do you find the line between, like, I'm
Me
being a
being
nice
for my
person and,
friends.
like, I'm getting stepped on by
All
other
right, so
people?
here's the thing, like, you could be enabling a friend's bad habit because you're trying to do the right thing or be a nice person, but
Yeah.
by doing that, you could be enabling like a really toxic behavior with that friend, you know, like, and so that's something to consider too.
I want to also say I appreciate friends that notice when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Like, cause I have friends that will be like, I know you're in a bad headspace right now, and it's not good for you to be helping me.
Right.
And I really appreciate friends that will reach out like that and be like, I will come to you with this later.
That's
like
a real
when you're
friend.
Yeah.
when
That's a
you're
real
at
friend,
when you're in a better headspace, I really appreciate that when people don't step on you. Like, yeah.
Or just like take that as like, oh well, she's helping me, so it's fine. I got
Yeah.
it. Like thank you so much for this help. And
Like, let's help
nothing
each
in
other.
return.
Let's
Yeah.
be respectful of each other's feelings. I
Yeah,
really
I
appreciate
agree,
those
yeah.
relationships.
Me and my best friend, we've had a rough year. Like, so as soon as the year, even before the year started, it's been hard for both of us. But I feel like Soleil said, we have times where like, okay, like, not like, okay, now it's your turn to talk about this, but we like know when things are getting hard for one another. We take a step back and we
Yeah.
listen to them, or she'll listen to me, and we'll talk about.
You know
like,
each other. You
yes,
know
what's
what's
troubling
yeah.
us. Yeah.
That's what I want to talk about, listening and how
Yeah.
bad people are at listening. But that's a whole other time because we're running out of time, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's put that in our notes. Talk about how to listen properly.
Are we saying bye to our
I think-
listeners
I
right
think we're saying
now?
bye.
Bye.
I think
Oh
coffee
my God.
After
Oh, have we
Coffee time.
Alright.
Have we
We ran out of
discussed our
coffee.
We
Sorry.
ran out of
group
coffee.
name?
Oh yeah.
I really like coffee time after hours.
I think that, yeah, because Layla wanted to whisper that.
Okay. I think that's the official name. Coffee time after hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
it
Thanks
was
for
a fun
listening.
time.
Thank you for
Thank
listening.
All right, our conversation ends.
See you guys
Also,
next
don't
week.
forget to put in advice for
Oh
next
yeah.
week.
So we have
what
more
exactly
things to talk
that.
about.
Cool.
And in the comments too, if there don't go to veterans.
There we go.
Period.
Alright.
Period.